And Gen Z is actually doing a great job keeping their credit card balance at the lowest, around $2,900 on average in 2023. Is there such a thing as a good debt or a bad debt? There's one debt that I've been holding on to, and that is my 30-year fixed mortgage when I purchased this house back in 2014. Is holding on to a mortgage debt considered a good debt? Let me show you my equity chart real quick, and you can download all of my financial resources, including this home equity tracker, for absolutely free by visiting firestarchannel.com/resources. Anyway, I bought this house back in 2014, but my first mortgage payment didn't start until September 1st. My mortgage interest rate at the time was actually 4.25% until I refinanced in 2020 to 2.9%. And I also put my total annual investment return in the right column so that I can do the comparisons. My total investments are about 10.4% in annualized average annual return here since 2014. But anyway, this house was originally purchased for $180,000, but my mortgage balance was actually over $183,600 with the closing costs. So I actually had negative equity in my home during the first year because I used a VA loan with no down payments. This is actually normal when you first purchase your home. But take a look at 2015 here. I track my home value on January 1st every year because I'm a nerd. My home value increased by 2.8% from when I purchased it in September to January 1st, 2015. My mortgage balance decreased from $183,616 to about $182,000. So the home equity increased from negative $3,600 to positive $2,148, which is a total of about $5,700. So the equity of my home actually increased by 159% year over year because I had over $2,000 in equity, right? Now, 159% seems a lot, and that's because the amounts are small compared to the amounts now. It's just simple math. And what happened next was in 2016 when my home value increased by 6.5% year over year because I continued to pay down my mortgage debt. The equity in my home increased by 704% because it went from $2,000 in equity to over $17,000 in just a year. Do you see how the value of my home increased from $180,000 to $204,000 in a matter of 4 years? At the same time, I paid down my mortgage from negative $183,000 down to $176,000. So I was paying on average of $3,500 every year in principal. And that's why the equity in my home continue to increase, right? And fast forward 9 years to 2023, my home is now worth over $365,000. It has appreciated over 103.3% with an average of 11.5% annually. The equity in my house is now over $204,000 because not only was my house appreciated, but the debt that I owe from $183,000 is now reduced to $161,000. So a part of my net worth now has $204,000, right? And I project it to increase many years to come. Not to mention my stock market investment returns made a huge rebound from 2022 when it was down by negative 18%, and now I'm making over 17% so far just in July 2023. And just by looking at that home equity calculator, and I think you and I can both agree that taking out a 30-year fixed mortgage rate was a good debt for this house, right? And I was 28 years old when I bought this house. My mortgage rates have been low from 4.25% initially to now 2.9%. The equity in my home continued to rise year over year, an average of 11.5%. And instead of paying extra principal on my mortgage, I invested that money into an index fund that's performed on average of 10.4% annually. And when I'm ready to sell this house in the future, I could either use the profit I made from the house for a new house or invest that profit in the stock market. I could even do a cash out refinance this house and rent it out, but there are several risks that are associated with it. But when does a good debt, like your mortgage debt, become risky? There are several things we can debate or argue about this, but there's not a one size fits all answer for everyone watching this video. But one indicator is if your mortgage interest rates are higher than what your investments make on the average annual return. For example, if your mortgage interest rate is 7% and your investment portfolio makes 6%, you're essentially paying more in interest on your home than you get from your annual investment returns, right? The other factor is the housing market in your area starts to change or slow down. Your appraisal can come in low for several reasons. The common reason is a changing market, which means the housing market is slowing down. You might be stuck in the same house or sell at a potential loss if we experience another housing slowdown or a crash like in 2008 and 2009. And I'm not saying that we're going to see another crash. And that's a risk that you need to consider. The other factor I also want you to consider is your age. If you're close to your retirement age, the last thing you want to deal with is your debts or other liabilities. You also have a shorter timeline to compound your investments over time as opposed to someone in their 20s, 30s, or early 40s. And no matter how you look at your mortgage, whether it builds equity over time or offers tax breaks over time, it is still considered a liability. The older you get, you have the better chance of your health deteriorating in a shorter period of time. And I want to go over some other debts that are also considered good debt as long as they meet the criteria. And if you run a business like me that requires a big initial investment to buy your equipment, taking out a small business loan could help you get started on your feet. And when I first started my financial coaching business to help my clients with their personal finances, I needed some money to buy a computer, camera, cables, and some lighting in my home office. My overhead is really low because my job is done over video calls. I make my YouTube videos in my home office and it doesn't take as much money to make them. Maybe I'll invest in a much more expensive camera one day, but if you're just looking to start a business now, try to find ways to reduce your expenses as much as possible. I haven't had the need to take out a business loan because I use my own savings to pay for my equipment. But in any event, before you decide to take out a business loan, make sure to have a plan to repay your business loan in full and don't bite more than you can chew. You also want to make sure your interest rates aren't too high and you have the plan to make some return on investment. And if you're wondering what equipment I use to run my business and how I grew my YouTube channel from 700 to 10,000 subscribers in less than a year, you should check out my Fireside Chat shop by visiting firesidechat.com/shopping. And the next type of debt is your student loan. And your student loan is only worth it or considered good debt if you have a plan to repay it within the next 3 to 5 years. If you're a lawyer, doctor, or pilot that cost you hundreds of thousands of dollars to finish your degrees, you still need to have a 5-year plan to pay it off in full. For example, if you pay $50,000 for a 4-year degree and that degree lands you a job that pays you $75,000 a year, then you want to have a plan to pay off $25,000 every year to pay off the student loan in full in 2 years. If you're a pilot, let's say, who took out $300,000 in student loans, making between $100,000 and $200,000 a year as an airline pilot, then you need to have a plan to pay off $75,000 every year to pay off the student loan in 4 years. If you hold on to your student loan for more than 5 years, then it's no longer an investment in your degree, but it becomes a major liability that doesn't give you any tax breaks and prevents you from investing in your retirement. And I know some of this data can be extremely difficult to understand. So I encourage you to join my private Facebook group or become a member of my channel because I have a public live stream and private group session every other Wednesday to talk about all kinds of financial independence, investment, and early retirement strategies. You can visit firesidechat.com/pricing or firesidechat.com/coaching to schedule your financial coaching session. The next one is your car loan. No matter how you look at it, buying a car is a depreciating asset, unless you can afford a rare car that appreciates in value, like a Lamborghini. Getting a car loan is considered bad debt because you're getting a loan on something that's depreciating in value every year. A mortgage, on the other hand, is considered a good debt because your house appreciates in value over time and your mortgage actually becomes cheaper because of inflation. right? So not only are you paying interest on your car loan, but you're paying for the depreciation in the long term. So if you get a car loan for 5% and your car depreciates on average 15% every year, you're essentially paying 20% total for interest and depreciation. This is what's going to hurt your net worth the most. When it comes to buying a car, I can only recommend that you buy something that you can pay off within a year after making a large deposit. There are some rules out there like the 23A, which is a 20% deposit, a 3-year term, and paying no more than 8% of your gross income for your car payment. I don't mind having that plan, but I always recommend that you buy something cheap when you're in your 20s or 30s while you're trying to grow your wealth. But if you insist that you need a safe and reliable vehicle, the most effective way, in my opinion, is to create a taxable brokerage account specifically for your future vehicle purchases. Now, let's say you decide to buy a used car for no more than $6,000, and you get to pay it off in cash. $6,000 divided by 12 months is $500 per month, right? So if you invest $500 a month into a taxable brokerage account, making 10% in average annual return for the next 5 years, you're gonna have over $39,000 invested in this taxable brokerage account to buy a car. So instead of paying $500 a month in car payments with 6% interest, pay yourself first by investing in something that will grow over time. So when you're ready to buy a car, use that money to buy a brand new car that you've always wanted. And the next one is your credit card debt. And this one is a no-brainer. It is a bad debt because it can charge you anywhere between 20 and 29% in interest every month if you carry a balance on your credit card. Trust me, I did this back in 2014 when I racked up over $47,000 in credit card debt with 5 completely maxed out credit cards. You can check out how I paid off my $110,000 in consumer debt in 2 years, linked in the description below. And take a look at this chart from CNBC. We just hit $1 trillion in total credit card debt. And Gen Z is actually doing a great job keeping their credit card balance at the lowest, around $2,900 on average in 2023. If you're in your 30s, your credit card balance on average is around $5,800. If you're in your 40s, you have the highest credit card balance of about $7,600. If you're between the ages of 50 and 64, your credit card balance is about $7,200 in 2023. That's not good, especially for baby boomers getting ready to retire. People over the age of 65 actually have a lower balance at around $4,700. These are all very alarming numbers. But anyway, I've also heard arguments from some of you guys in the comment section that you carry a credit card balance so that you can enjoy the rewards. I never carry a balance on my credit cards, and I still get to enjoy my rewards. Getting a 3% cash back on your purchases, they don't mean jack if you're paying 25% in interest every month by carrying a balance. It doesn't make any sense at all. If you have a spending problem and you can't keep your expenses under control, you need to get rid of your credit cards and use only debit cards. You're not supposed to use credit cards to build your wealth. And you should not use your credit cards as an emergency fund. Some of you guys do this because you feel like having a line of credit can somehow help you reduce your stress. Do you know what reduces my stress? By keeping cash in my emergency fund with Ally Bank, which pays me 4% in APY. If you need a credit card to pay for your emergency expenses, you're most likely gonna end up carrying a balance on your credit card, which means you're gonna end up paying $25 in interest for something you purchased for $100. It just doesn't make any sense. But anyway, I'm also gonna make a video about the pros and cons of taking out a 401k loan. So if you're interested in that, let me know in the comment section down below. And be sure to subscribe if you haven't done that already. And if you want to know more about how HELOC works and how to pay off your debt fast, be sure to check out these 2 videos. So with that said, I appreciate you watching my video. Don't forget to subscribe, and I hope to see you in the next video. Have a good one.